All right, today's lesson is 1.12 more Pythagorean theorem applications. You'll need your math notebook, pencil, and your calculator. Please make sure you're taking notes and working out those problems as we go through them in this video. All right, so essential question, how do I use the Pythagorean theorem to find the length of a missing side of a triangle? I will be able to use the Pythagorean theorem to find the length of the third side of any right triangle when given the lengths of the other two sides, so that I can determine the missing length of a right triangle. I'll know I got it if I can analyze the information to find missing lengths of right triangles by using the Pythagorean theorem. We'll just jump into some practice because we've already gone over the Pythagorean theorem in the previous lessons. So here's an example. A square garden has a diagonal of 34 feet. Colton wants to put a fence around the entire garden. The fencing is sold by the foot. What is the minimum amount of fencing he needs? All right, so a little different here. We don't know the length of these sides, but it is a square, so all the sides have the same length. So we could use the letter S to represent the length of those sides. So here's our right angle. We know this is the hypotenuse. So this is how you would set this problem up. You can use any letter. I just used S for the for side. So S squared plus S squared. Because remember, it's our Pythagorean theorem. Just follow the formula. And we know C is 34 feet, so we're going to square that. Now these two are like terms. They're both S squared. So we're going to put it's like 1 S squared plus 1 S squared. So that's 2 S squared. Now we'll go ahead and square 34. Use your calculator. And that's 1,156. So now we're going to solve, we need to isolate this variable here. So we're going to divide by 2. So divide by 2 on both sides. That leaves us with S squared is equal to, let's see, using the calculator, divide by 2, 578. So S squared is 578. So S will be the square root of that. All right, again, use that calculator. Second, x squared, 578. It is 24.04. Now, it's important that we have the 24.04 because he's measuring the fencing sold by the foot. So each side is 24.04. And there are 4 of them. So you can't just drop off that 0.04 and round it to 24. So if I do 24.04 times 4, that's going to give me the total amount of fencing needed. Actually, you can just put it into your calculator, times 4, and it comes out to approximately 96.17. And it's okay, just around that. I'm going to put it down here. So you have to round it up to 97 because you can't buy part of that foot of fencing. So he will need to buy a minimum of 97 feet of fencing. Again, if this, pause it, rewind, whatever you need to do. You can email me if you have questions about any of these that we're going through. Next one, a boat is anchored at the south of a lighthouse. Along the shore, the town of Beechton is 16.8 kilometers due east of the lighthouse. Enter a number in the box to correctly complete the statement. The distance from the boat to Beachton. Okay, so the boat is anchored 2.2 kilometers due south of a lighthouse. All right, so we have our lighthouse is here. And then our boat would be anchored here. And we can go ahead, and then it says that along the shore of the town of Beachton is 16.8 miles due east of the lighthouse. So that's going to be here. And this is Beachton. Gonna have to know your directions, north, south, east, and west. And we're going to connect those together. Put this in green. I didn't do a very good job of getting that straight, but that's okay. We notice that we do have our right triangle there. So we're using Pythagorean theorem to solve that problem. Let's label our numbers. So from the boat to the lighthouse was 2.2 kilometers. And this lighthouse to the beach town, I didn't put it in there, is 16.8. Here's our right angle. So this is the hypotenuse that we're looking for. A squared plus b squared is equal to c squared. So we're going to do 2.2 squared plus 16.8 squared is equal to c squared. Now you could put the whole thing in the calculator at once by using if you use parentheses, but it's okay if you don't. Just 2.2 squared comes out to 4.84. All right, so that first number is going to be 4.84 when you square it. You should be working this out with me. You may already have the answer. All right, then we're going to square 16.8. Square that, and it comes out to 282.24. Then we're going to add those two together. Let's say it was 282.24. That's c squared. Add those two together, and it's 287.08. And that's c squared. So c will be the square root of that. Use your calculator. Second, x squared, 287.08, comes out to 16.94. And it says to round it to the nearest tenth. So if it's 16.94, the 9 is in the tenths place. That 4 tells you that stays the same. So 16.9. Next one, a 200-foot long support wire attaches to a cell phone tower at a height of 50 feet from the ground. To the nearest length of foot, what is the distance along the ground from the center of the tower to the point where the wire touches the ground? All right, so we're going to have our cell phone tower. There's our cell phone tower. And it says that there's a wire, I'll change the color, that attaches at a height of 50. So I'm just going to put it here. There's our wire. I don't know if I went far enough. Then I'll go ahead and put this to here. So what we know, so our cell phone tower, so at height of 50, so this is going to be 50. And then it says that it's a 200-foot long support wire. So this is 200. And then it asks, what's the distance from the ground to the center of the tower to the point where the wire touches the ground? Okay, so we're looking for this side. All right, so here's your right angle. So the hypotenuse is 200. Right angle, go across, there it is. So we're going to use a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared. Now we are looking for a squared or b squared, doesn't matter. The other leg is 50, so that's 50 squared. And then we're going to do 200 squared. And so a 50 squared will be 2,500. 200 squared will be 40,000. So you need to isolate the variables, so we're going to subtract 2,500 from both sides. We're left with a squared. Go ahead and use that calculator. 40,000 minus 2,500 is 37,500, and that's a squared. So a will be the square root of that. All right, so second squared, or second x squared, 37,500. Get the square root, it comes out to approximately 193.64, and it says to the nearest tenth. All right, so we look at rounding. The 6 is in the tens place, the 4 tells you that the 6 just stays. So the answer would be 193.6. All right, last one. The dimensions of a rectangular piece of drawing paper are 15.5 inches and 20 inches. Carson folded the piece of paper along a diagonal. What measurement is closest to the length of the diagonal in inches? All right, let's draw our piece of paper. We're going to put a diagonal in there. All right, there's our diagonal, because that's where the fold is. We know that it's 15.5 by 20. Let's go ahead and label that. And this is 20. Here's our right angle. We're looking for this, which is the hypotenuse. A squared plus b squared is equal to c squared. So 15.5 squared plus 20 squared is equal to c squared. All right, go ahead and use your calculator. 15.5 squared comes out to 240.25. 240.25, and 20 squared is 400. Add those together, you get 640.25, and that's c squared. So c is going to be the square root of that. So use your calculator. Second x squared, 640.25 gets the square root, 25.30. And then if this was actually one of the almost quiz questions, so it would be multiple choice. But we're going to go ahead and just round it to the nearest tenth, and so it comes out to 25.3. All right, make sure you complete your OMS lessons. Read everything thoroughly, take notes, practice those problems.